Dr. Pignatelli, you may begin. Dr. Pignatelli, you may begin.
Good morning, good evening, good day to everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Southeast Asia Regional Meeting, co-hosted by the Association of Academic Health Centers International, AAHCI, and the host of AAHCI's Southeast Asia Regional Office, Universitas Indonesia. We are beginning with a keynote lecture on surviving and thriving, innovating through the pandemic and beyond. My name is Massimo Pignatelli. I'm the chair of the steering committee of AAHCI, and I will be the facilitator of this session for you. We will begin with a welcome videos from AAHCI President and CEO, Dr. Stephen Kanter, and AAHCI Southeast Asia Regional Ambassador, Dr. Aris Siam, and Universitat Indonesia Secretary, Professor Dr. Augustin Kusumayati. One moment.
Hello, and warm greetings to all of you from Washington, D.C. I'm Stephen Kanter, President and CEO of the Association of Academic Health Centers International. Welcome to the 2021 Southeast Asia Regional Meeting. We are so delighted that you are here, joining together with colleagues from around the world to focus on this year's theme, Surviving and Thriving, Innovating Through the Pandemic and Beyond. It has been a pleasure to work with Regional Ambassador Dr. Aris Siam, Dr. Iman Budi, and Ms. Inda Susanti, who have worked closely with our team to plan this event. I wish to convey my sincere appreciation to them and to our regional host, Universitas Indonesia, for their hard work in bringing together academic health centers across the region. Also, a warm welcome to Universitas Indonesia's rector, Professor Ari Kunkoro. Thank you for your support. And a special greeting to our newest members in Indonesia, Universitas Sumatera Utara and UIN Jakarta. We are so glad you are here. Over the last 2 years, academic health centers transformed rapidly to meet the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. They ramped up telehealth, stepped up the pace of research, worked at the forefront of vaccine development, studied new treatments for COVID-19, and implemented new approaches to education, and did it all in record time, often in new and accelerated ways, while concurrently taking care of the sickest of patients. As we near the 2-year mark of the pandemic, it's a critical time to reflect on lessons learned, and perhaps even more importantly, to consider how these lessons can and must inform how we prepare for future pandemics and other crises. And as the theme of this meeting says, how we can survive and thrive as we continue to develop innovations in healthcare, research, and education. It never has been more important for us to work together to work across borders, and to support collaboration and partnerships. It is the only way we truly can leverage the lessons of the pandemic. I know you will find the presentations and discussions scheduled today and tomorrow to be relevant, valuable, and enjoyable. And if they do what they are supposed to do, they will stimulate our thinking, help all of us to generate new and better ideas, and they will help us accelerate the critical work that we do every day at academic health centers. So thank you again for being here. I look forward to learning together.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning and good evening to those joining from other parts of the world, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As the Secretary of the University of Indonesia, I would like to deliver our warmest welcome to all of the Association of Academic Health Center International's Southeast Asia Regional Meeting participants under the theme of Surviving and Thriving, Innovating Through the Pandemic and Beyond. All the academic health systems worldwide have faced and are still facing the most challenging years yet due to the pandemic. The concept of new normal has been implemented in order to survive. But past survival, we must also focus on thriving and sustainability. As an essential part of global health, academic health systems are challenged to yield various innovations to survive and thrive during and beyond this pandemic, as well as in preparation for future pandemics that may occur. This meeting is bringing together academic health centers and systems within and across the regions to provide valuable experience and perspective, as well as share lessons learned from challenges faced during this critical time. Through this meeting, I hope we can reap the chance to engage and explore collaborative opportunities. I hope that this regional meeting will benefit all participants, members, health professionals, as well as the public. Last but not least, I would like to thank the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia, as the Regional Ambassador and of the Association of Academic Health Center International for the tremendous efforts he has made in making this meeting possible. I wish you a truthful and meaningful meeting. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good evening to those joining from around the world. Professor Ari Kunchoro, Rector of Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Stephen Cantor, CEO of Associations Academic Health Center International, speakers, moderators, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. As a regional ambassador of the Associations of Academic Health Center International's Southeast Asia Regional Office, it is truly my honor and pleasure to welcome you to our 2021 Southeast Asia Regional Meeting under the theme of Surviving and Thriving, Innovating Through the Pandemic and Beyond. As much as I would have loved to welcome you all in person at our faculty in Salemba, Jakarta this year, similar to all of you, we are still coming out of this global pandemic. However, I'm grateful that we can meet again virtually this year and appreciate AAHCI's support in making this happen. We are confident that you will enjoy these 2 days and thank you for being here. As you know, it has been a challenging time for academic health centers worldwide to continue to provide qualified educations, excellent healthcare service, and research development. In the face of uncertainty, we have managed to not only survive, but most importantly, build resilience and use these challenges as an opportunity to learn and identify the best practices as a way to prepare us for what the future holds. Under the theme Surviving and Thriving, Innovating Through the Pandemic and Beyond, this session we have served to provide valuable insight on critical issues and challenges and bring your peers together in the region as at a crucial time to share different perspectives and experiences. This regional meeting will kick off with the keynote lecture, Academic Health Centers, What Does the Future Hold? That will be delivered by Professor Emeritus Robert Armstrong. We will also have panel session this afternoon and tomorrow, covering 3 topics and featuring speakers from the regions and beyond. I sincerely believe that every session will be valuable and significant to all of us. I want to acknowledge and thank all of the speakers, facilitators, for their value contributions and willingness to share their precious knowledge and experience. Thank you very much. And to our colleagues, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us virtually and hope you will contribute to these fruitful discussions. Thank you sincerely for joining us. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well, thank you very much for very nice introduction to this exciting meeting. In today's session, the topic is the Academic Health Center. What does the future hold? Is a very relevant topic because we are still learning through this pandemic. The 3 pillars of any academic health center, the research, the education, and the patient care, have been disrupted by COVID, have been transformed, and we've been learning as we went along. And it's fair to say that perhaps we were not really ready to deal. In fact, many institutions and many organizations were not really ready to deal with this with an event like the COVID-19 pandemic. And unfortunately, what is very clear is that probably this will not be the last one, and the next pandemic will surely come. So we obviously is absolutely essential that we build resilience in our system. We are fully equipped with the personnel, with the skills, and with the systems really to deal with the next pandemic whenever will reach us. So therefore, is a great pleasure for me to welcome Dr. Robert Armstrong, is the Professor Emeritus of Pediatrics at the University of British Columbia and the Aga Khan University, as our keynote speaker. He recently completed a 10-year term as the Foundation Dean of the AKU Medical College in Nairobi. He's a fellow of the Canadian Academy of Health Sciences. He served on the steering committee of the AAHCI and facilitated the establishment of the Eastern Africa Regional Office of AAHCI. So he's certainly the appropriate speaker really to take us through the future for the academic health system center after this pandemic. I would like to ask all the participants to type your question in the QA feature at the bottom of the screen, and so that we can, at the end of the presentation, we can then deliver your question. Dr. Armstrong, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I think you're going to have to unshare your screen so that I can share mine.
Yes, you should be able to share now.
Can you see it?
Yes, you can go ahead and play the slideshow.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction, Dr. Pignatelli, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in the Southeast Asia Regional Meeting. It's an opportunity for me to share with you a few thoughts on the future of academic health centers, but hopefully that will hopefully generate good discussion and ideas. Predicting the future is obviously a risky situation. And so what I would like to do is really focus in 4 areas. Talk about the need to expand academic health centers globally. I think we've heard in the introductions in the routine academic clinical environment, but also in environments of crisis such as the pandemic. Fundamental to that success is governance and management, and academic health centers are very complex organizations, and so focusing on governance and management and getting the quality of governance and management right, I think will be an important initiative going forward. And then I want to talk about the 4th mission, the core missions of education, research, and clinical service. But beyond that, the mission of what I will call population health. And then finally talk about recruitment and retention, which I think going forward will be a critical consideration for academic health systems, both to survive and thrive. So let me start by global expansion. I think we've heard from our introductory speakers, welcoming speakers, the importance that these academic health centers play in communities. The Association for Academic Health Centers a number of years ago created the international mandate for the organization, and now the creation of now 5 regional offices hosted today by Southeast Asia, and recently, the most recent one being East Africa. These regional offices are really important to move from what has largely been a Western focus structure for the academic association to a more global focus. And as you can see, these 5 regional offices represent a significant population of the globe. But what I also want to do is present an argument for moving beyond the developed world and looking at how academic health centers can support the development of health and healthcare in low and middle income countries. There's really an asymmetrical relationship at the moment, as most of the highly successful institutions of academic health centers have been growing up in a Western advanced economy environment. But I want to argue that the low and middle income countries, developing countries, these organizations can play a key role, whether that's private, public, or some joint opportunities. And for these to be most successful, I would satellites of developed country universities, institutions. There are some of those satellite initiatives that have been successful, but homegrown gives the a more sense of permanence and understanding of context and opportunities and drivers and challenges in creating these academic health centers. And I would argue that if this can be achieved, the impact can be enormous. And I want to give one example of that impact, which I'm familiar with, having worked with the Aga Khan University for the last 10 years. But The Aga Khan University Academic Health Sciences Center in Karachi is now 35 years old. And it's a little more than 35, but the description that I'm going to give you represents a 35-year history. It was started as a greenfield site in Karachi, Pakistan, in a low middle-income country. Private, not-for-profit, and development-focused. And in that greenfield site, it started a healthcare delivery system, a nursing school, a medical school, and a research infrastructure. Focus was on quality, access, relevance, and impact, the key principles of the University Academic Health Center, and to achieve an international standard. The hospital is JCI accredited, and other programs are in accreditation or already accredited in the education side. There's an initial investment by the Aga Khan, who is the chancellor of the university, but his mandate to the institution was that it had to be sustainable over the long term without additional direct investment by the Aga Khan Development Network. So that's the university. It's grown up over 35 years. And in 2015, the university wanted to look at what impact it was having in the community that where it developed. And so they hired an independent consulting organization to do an impact study. And what I'd like to do is just briefly describe that impact to you. Sorry, I think the slides are a little bit slow here. So this is the impact study, a summary of the impact study, both describe an economic and a public benefit impact. So on the economic side, they were able to calculate that the academic medical center was contributing $1 billion in a given year to the economy of Pakistan. So a significant contribution to the economic activities of the country as a whole. And they were employing over 40,000 individuals. So that was the direct benefit, but the most important area was probably the general public benefit. And what they discovered, and not surprising to those of us in this audience probably, is that the creation of an international standard of healthcare in the country was driving the improvement in healthcare more broadly in both public and private healthcare delivery institutions. Research and innovation was context specific in many cases, so that impacted the direction of the country, the health of the country as a whole. The faculty were engaged in professional societies and supported and led many of those professional societies as they evolved over this 35 years. And nursing, this was the first graduate nursing program, Bachelor of Science nursing program in Pakistan. And the introduction of that nursing program has transformed the understanding of nursing and the acceptance of nursing in the country as a whole. The institution is called on by government for many policy areas in health. And as described in the introductions, the system was able to support crisis events in the country, whether that's earthquake, floods, or now the pandemic. And then finally, the faculty and students who are moved out of the academic health center into the public system, into the private system, have been in a high quality academic health center. So that's really a message to say that we shouldn't lose sight of the opportunity for academic health centers to be developed in low resource countries. They can have tremendous impact. And the requirements, sorry, the slides are very slow in moving here.
Dr. Armstrong, would you like for us to run the slides so that you can continue?
Yes.
Okay, just give us 1 second. Sam, can you go ahead and run the slide from this one?
should I unsave the screen or? Okay.
There you go. You may continue.
Okay, so I apologize for that. So the key message being that, so it's a different slide deck, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, can we go back to my slide deck? Habiba, it's a different slide deck.
Okay, Sam, I'll try to do it on my end. Thank you. Everyone, just give us 1 second while we figure this out. Thank you.
Can I reshare mine and see if it works?
Sure, you can try. I will just have it open in case.
Okay, let's see if this works. I apologize for that. So the basic message is institution grew up in a low resource setting and is highly impactful in the country. And that should be able to be duplicated. And what are the requirements for that to be successful? First of all, you need seed funding. You need a social impact investment or some mechanism. If this is a private enterprise, government enterprise is another discussion. You need the concurrent development of both the healthcare system and the academic system, so they are synergistic in their development and impact. And you need to get the mix right. You have to function as a healthcare delivery system in a competitive environment. You need to be able to develop the relevant education programs that are relevant to the country. And you need to develop a research capacity that is internationally competitive. Next, you need to build sustainability. You cannot rely on the healthcare system to fund the academic enterprise. And there are a variety of ways of doing that, opportunities, property development, commercial operations that can support the broader mission. Build relationships, local and global, and build government relationships. The government sees strong community benefit to academic health centers, whether they're private or some mixture of public and private. And so you get strong support from government. The pictures you see are our attempt to duplicate Karachi in East Africa. We started with a existing healthcare hospital and transformed it into a teaching hospital, which was very challenging and not necessarily ideal, but it has happened. We started residency programs before undergraduate programs in order to build the quality of healthcare delivery before we then, and capacity of the faculty before we then start undergraduate programs. Undergraduate programs are still in the final planning stage and will start in that new building in the upper picture, which is just being completed. So within the Khan organization, we are trying to duplicate that low resource setting, a sustainable way already to the East Africa community. So now let me move to governance and management. Academic health science centers are very complex organizations. I think we all appreciate that. There are many competing and hopefully synergistic relationships. And that's why governance and management is so important. I think focus in the future on effective governance and management will be a key priority as institutions develop more globally. And that challenges even there in mature institutions in the West. Basic principles of good governance, I think we're all aware of: accountability, leadership, integrity, stewardship, and transparency, critical issues to a successful academic health system. So much has been written about what the right structure is for academic health systems. I have selected Dr. Pellegrini, a recent paper that him and his colleagues, Dr. Pellegrini and his colleagues published in. They identify the fundamental importance of governance and then identify also what they see as the key success factors. They also quote an unidentified source as saying, if you have seen one academic health center, you have seen one academic health center, suggesting that there isn't a common framework or structure for academic health centers that is consistent across organizations. And they say they have proposed that the key factors for success are academic oversight of practice plans, single point of integrated discussion, decision-making, I should say, and physician leadership. However, the problem is in most situations, you don't have the luxury of designing that structure. There are already established relationships or governance rules that prevent necessarily the ideal structure. And so I think the evidence is that it's not structure so much as the governance and management structure that exists that determines the success of an academic health center. And this is nicely illustrated by a paper by Levin and colleagues in 2010, which they describe the 4 components of an aligned mission and vision for an academic health center. Clearly important governance. Governance is important. A management structure aligned to a strategic plan and supported by a financially sustainable framework. To the extent that those activities are aligned and measured, defines how successful an academic health center will be. Clearly trust productive relationships. So I think this, if you want to talk about commonality across academic health centers, this is what health center and how that is structured is going to be dependent on the context within which they are created. And so we are fortunate, and in the Association for Academic Health Centers saw this as a key important area of focus. This alignment of mission and vision, focused, I think you're probably all familiar with. It's a non-accreditation program that is peer support for optimizing organizational structures to meet and align the mission and vision and ensure that academic health centers can be successful. So that is an opportunity for the future, for moving into the future. Institutions can be facilitated through this AIM program. And thanks to the pandemic, if the pandemic can be thanked, we have all moved in this connected world online, and AIM Connect has been created to provide an online consultation service for academic health centers interested in improving their organizational structures. And I think they are both strategies are to existing and new programs. And of course, the central office has much more to say about how that can be established for your institution. I want to move now to this idea of a 4th mission beyond education, research, and clinical care. And pictures of 2 key leaders in academic health centers, Victor Zhao and Stephen Wortman, the previous president of the association, have very nicely captured the transition that is going on, both in the healthcare system itself, but also in the broader society, and how institutions of academic health centers need to be responsive and think differently about how they interact in society as a whole. and move to what I would say is a population health focused strategy. And I'll describe a little bit more about that thinking. Personal, their place in where they live, and how they live through time and the events that they experience in that time. So person, place, time, and events, in some ways it's like the clinical history that we are taught to take, that really define the individual and their perception of health and healthcare and how they interact with healthcare professionals. And the shift to population health rather than clinical care recognizes something that we have all known, that there are many broader influences on health and health outcomes than the healthcare system themselves. And these are broadly structured around this diagram around the individual human development, the biology, the development of the individual is influenced by social and economic environment, by the family, the culture, the education system, etc., that influences health and health care. By the physical environment, and clearly the climate change is front and center in many of our minds these days in terms of how it affects health and health care. And the healthcare system itself and the care that individuals receive. And fifthly, the nation state policies and practices and responsibilities of the nation around population health, not just healthcare delivery, but broader influences on health as a population and the global interaction with that. So if we take that from an individual point of view to the science of population health, it is really the integration of those individuals. However you want to build that science, whatever question you're asking, is that integration of person, place, time, and events that defines population health sciences and the population health that it is able to study. And now you have to bring in much broader disciplines of expertise: epidemiology, social sciences, political sciences, data science, biomedical sciences, etc., to truly begin to understand and influence health and healthcare. So we move from beyond the walls of the hospital or the direct healthcare delivery system to a more population-focused mission. So it's research, education, clinical service, and population health. And the population health model then captures the multiple determinants of health and disease. We need to build the required interdisciplinary structures that support research along that continuum. We need to look at ways of delivering care differently than we have in the walls of the hospital or the clinic. And we need to determine how to frame this broader mission in the health sciences education programs without contributing more burden to the students going through our programs. So that's really the fourth mission. And finally, I just want to say a little bit about recruitment and retention. There is no substitute for talent and drive, and I think that's clear. We need to be able to identify individuals as students or as faculty who are talented and who have a drive to improve. And academic health systems, no matter what their governance and management structure, how successful it is, if it isn't recruiting talent and supporting drive, it will not be successful. And so support needs to be focused on recruitment and retention. And these are very stressful times, obviously during the pandemic, but even prior to the pandemic, these have been important issues in the healthcare, academic health system. We need to support differential roles in individuals, from the pure clinician to the pure scientist, and how they interact with each other, and value those roles equally, and ensure that there's equity of opportunity, so that the clinician who is delivering full-time clinical care and teaching in the context of that care is as valuable and has as many opportunities as the scientist who is generating the research, internationally competitive research grants. I won't say much about compensation, benefits, and time management, but our graduates are different individuals than we have been in the past, and we need to look at ways in which compensation and benefits support individuals. And there are various models, as you well know, on how to mix these compensation in relation to the four missions. And finally, we need to nurture leaders. This is so important within an academic organization, to be able to identify and support leaders within the organization who understand the vision and mission. And these are the individuals who will provide stability and long-term success of the institution, rather than a constant turnover that is more individually driven rather than institutionally supported. So I apologize for the challenge of presentation, but I hope those 4 areas of focus are enough to generate discussion. I believe they are really important to the future of academic health systems, and academic health systems have a major role from a global perspective over the rest of this millennium, for sure. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have or comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this excellent overview and for the opportunity really to highlight these are the main point for discussion. We are encouraging everybody to write a question in the chat, so we can start some discussion. May I start with a couple of questions? I mean, I was particularly interested in your reference to the fourth vision, the population health, and there is obviously a lot of discussion at the moment in the concept of a citizen well-being, which actually will include exactly what you were referring to, physical, mental, and social well-being, and obviously the repurposing or redirection of the academic health centers. What are the specific challenges of meeting this fourth vision and meeting the requirement of a holistic well-being for the population in a country, in a developing country, where obviously the social context is very complex, and so what is your advice?
So I think in the past there has been a disconnection between healthcare delivery and public health. And sometimes there's actually a physical divide. Public health has not wanted to be linked to public medical care because they are seen as consuming all the resources of a country rather than focusing on public health. I think the marriage of these two and the broader well-being that you describe is critically important. It's broader than public health, and it's broader than healthcare delivery. And so you need to bring in different levels of expertise that are not traditionally in an academic health center. And I think from a public policy point of view, this would be a welcome transition to see academic health centers interested in the population as a whole and how they impact it. In the end, government has the responsibility for the population. Academic health centers have responsibility for training and directing the research, asking the right questions. I think thinking of populations and training the students, the graduates, to understand not that they have to deliver good clean water to the population. That's not their responsibility, but they have to understand that broader context. And I think governments would support that and the opportunity to build collaboration across institutions. Obviously, universities have a lot of that expertise, but they're not always talking to each other. So I think it's a unifying concept, whether you can deliver it or not, and how you constrain it so that it, the economic side of things are very important in the end. But I think it's an attitude first. It's a commitment first. It's an understanding that how we contribute to population health and well-being. And I think it's an important transition, but not losing the fundamentals of education and research and good clinical care. And I think to some extent, my example of the Karachi campus of Aga Khan University is doing that. I mean, it's not going to solve the problems of healthcare in Pakistan and well-being in Pakistan, but it is a major contributor. And how you structure that government, low resource environments in government is challenging. If you can find a proper financial structure, then I think there is opportunity to have that impact. And in fact, in East Africa, we have to compete with the private sector. So the non-academic private sector of healthcare is interested in moving into the developing world because it's a market that is developing, that is an opportunity. And so as academic health centers, we need to look at how we can capture that market and support the broader mission of an academic health center. That's challenging.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have another question about the retention and recruitment and retention. First of all, I need to congratulate you with what we've actually been able to achieve in the Aga Khan University, because we have many faculty and even our CEO actually comes from the Aga Khan University, and you probably know him very well. And so you're very talented. You're very talented administrative faculty and so on. Obviously, it's very challenging, as you mentioned. I mean, recruitment and retention is always challenging, but in particular during pandemic and post-pandemic, particularly in institutions that they are new institutions that are trying to build a reputation. Obviously, people are really making some decision about their life and their priority in life. You see, yes. And therefore, it may not be that easy to recruit talented in general, and particularly when you try to build something. Can you share your experience in terms of retention, recruitment of talent, or particularly international talent in your context?
Right. So I think none of us have, or at least most of us, I think probably none of us have experienced a pandemic such as this, the impact. So there is no real experience. I think one of the things for established centers, clearly the ability to ramp up and respond to something like this, the pandemic, is tremendously easier to do in an academic health system, I think, because you have the body of expertise there. The life of a health professional is obviously changing significantly, or has been impacted significantly. And I think it's really an unknown territory at the moment. But who is the talent? How do you support that talent through this period? And I think ensure that your structures are in place to respond once the pandemic has resolved. I do think people are making choices in life, and I think this is impacting nursing significantly, but it's also impacting medicine. But I think there's also huge opportunities. I mean, Aga Khan responded tremendously in Pakistan to the pandemic. Research activity went up significantly, focused on COVID. It's getting a little tiring to just focus on COVID. But I think you need to bring together a group of the institutional group around human resources and the academic leaders and say, well, how can we really think about how to support these individuals? I don't have a quick solution, obviously, to it, but talent is so important to retain and grow that it has to be a focus of institutions, developing world and developed world for sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I can see there are a couple of questions. First one is from Budi Iman Santoso. Please explain the difference between academic health system and academic health center.
Yeah, good question. It's an evolution in a way, and it's an evolution towards a broader mandate. In the U.S. context, I'm not an American, but in the U.S. context, I think it has evolved from the Obama era and the way in which healthcare funding was delivered. And so it's more than an individual institution. It's a broader collection of hospitals at various levels of care. It's capturing a population, ideally a population around an institution that is a system of care from primary to secondary to tertiary to quaternary. So building a system of care rather than a single institution. And I think we're moving, and it's true with, as we move to a population health perspective, it's much better to talk about system, academic health system, however you define it. And obviously it's going to be unique to a particular institution. But it is part of that broader thinking of how you structure healthcare delivery, making it more efficient, more cost effective, and in the right location, right place, at the right time, with the right care. All of those rights are in place.
Thank you. Then we have another question from Eva Suriani. I think she's referring to, obviously, in a country like Indonesia, where obviously the healthcare is largely provided by the government. What is the? Do you have any suggestion how the academic system of a private medical school university could contribute to the health improvement of the community? There may be situations where private institution may be left out, perhaps, or maybe may not be completely integrated into the overall program of the government. So, do you have any suggestion?
Yeah, I think it's very country specific about what is how the structure of academic health systems can evolve. I think the example I gave of Karachi was a private, not-for-profit, development-focused institution that sits within a broader public and private system. There's a very active private system in Pakistan. So I think it depends on the opportunity that exists. I think in the regional offices of AAHCI, there's opportunity to cross pollinate between private and public institutions. Most private institutions that are financially driven are not interested in the broader academic mission, and so you need a private commitment that sees opportunity in an academic health system rather than in a for-profit healthcare delivery structure. And part of my concern is that the private for-profit healthcare delivery structure will overrun or compete with the private system and certainly would potentially compete with a private, not-for-profit academic health system. And so there's an opportunity for government to define incentives that would support that mix of structure within an individual country.
Thank you. I don't see, oh, there's another question from Sanjay Rampal. What public health activities, roles should AHC and Academic Health Center expand into in this post-pandemic world? So what are the public health priorities? Yeah.
So I think the building of public health expertise within the academic health system is important. And most institutions have done that to varying degrees, but building cross-pollination, cross-opportunities within public health and clinical medicine is important, and to frame that around that broader population health concept. So I think the evolution of academic health systems, if they don't integrate population health, public health into their mandate, into their mission, they will not be effectively, they will not be as effective as they could be in influencing the health of a country or a region.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are close to the end of this session, when nearly 10 o'clock in Jakarta. I would like to thank obviously Dr. Armstrong for the fantastic overview and presentation, for answering also the question. I think we're all learning. It's quite clear that we're learning as we go along, and but hopefully next time we'll be in a better shape to deal with the next pandemic. And the presentation and the keynote lecture today actually set the scene, and actually the framework of really what we should be doing, really to be well equipped for the next pandemic, whenever will reach us. Thank you very much to Dr. Armstrong. Thank you very much to all the attendees for joining this session. And I think Christine is already put some information in the chat for the next session. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Massimo.
Thank you.